Breaking right now, it has all kicked off between Katie Hopkins and Carol Vorderman over the former Countdown host's tacit, softening support of the Labour government, who, remember, she insisted that would turn the UK into some sort of utopia. Well, Katie Hopkins ain't having any of that.
Vordernorks, I wonder if you could answer a question for us. Now, I know you take responsibility for the Labour victory, and also you're really, really good at maths. So can you explain to us why old ceramic bobhead Rachel Reeves has stolen 300 quid from the very poorest pensioners who will die this winter in order to give 11 billion quid to despot dictators and tyrants that run countries in Africa where it's hot? Now, I admire you on so many levels. I love your norks of porn. I love your tiny little waist. I love what the surgeons have done to your face. I love that you said what you thought on the BBC and got fired. And I love that you've gone after Michelle Mone. But I also know what it's like at LBC. You're having to rim James O'Brien on a daily basis. You're having to lick the fat out of the folds of Fatty Fogarty. It's a lot. So just one question. Please help us make the maths make sense. Cheers, Carol.
Well, this is how Carol's dealing with it. It's almost like she's in a period of mourning. She can't quite admit that her advice to vote Labour was the biggest mistake she's ever made. Watch her on Sly News.
Genuinely, I don't understand why they've done it. I do understand why you wouldn't pay the wealthy pensioners, but to go from, I'll be one of those in 2 years' time. So I wouldn't need the winter fuel allowance payment. But to go from 12 million to less than 2 million pensioners receiving it is just way too low. And I'm shocked by it because they could raise that money in so many other ways, including, for instance, private equity managers. All of this is kind of in the book, really. For instance, a few years ago, in one tax year, 255 private equity managers earned, very much in inverted commas, £2.7 billion between them. And they didn't pay 45% tax, as every employee who's earning a decent amount of money would pay. They have a special arrangement with HMRC at 28%. Now, that could instantly generate another 600-700 million.
So what do you think Keir Starmer should do now? Right, we've seen.
Well, I think he should apologise.
You think he should apologise?
I think I absolutely do. Genuinely, I don't understand.
What good will an apology do? What good will an apology do, Mayuran?
Yeah, what's astounding is when you see Carol Vorderman admit, and I actually think, fair enough, I'm no fan of Carol Vorderman. I probably would disagree with just about everything she says, but she is speaking honestly, and I'll give her credit for that. But what's astounding is how Keir Starmer and the Labour Party have expended so much political capital for the sake of £1.5 billion. I don't understand the political strategy here. They have literally fallen out with pensioners. They have been seen as the nasty party. Constituents have had hundreds of emails each, and this is gonna roll on and on and on, and could affect them even in the next general election. Why do it when you're spending £10 billion or thereabouts on public sector pay, or 11.5 billion on foreign aid? Why do it? There was so many other areas to take a haircut. Why did you do it on the pensioners? It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it.
No, I do agree with that, actually. But Molly Kingsley, isn't there something to be said for actually sometimes not idolising a political party? This is the issue with the left, isn't it? They thought that Slippery Starmer, who's actually a technocrat and an authoritarian, was going to come in and turn the country around overnight. In fact, he is making decisions that are cruel because they don't support a particular Labour voting group. So pensioners, for example, tend to vote Conservative. Now, if Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak had dared to remove the winter fuel allowance for pensioners, Vorderman would have been on the streets. And I think it's so important, if you're ever going to trust a commentator, They have to be able to turn against their political heroes. Now, look at me during lockdown. Yes, I had supported Boris Johnson before that, but the moment he started making those decisions, which were completely damaging to the country, I turned, because I have to be honest. And I feel like what we have now is client journalism from the likes of James O'Brien and Carol Vorderman, who will find any excuse to justify what they've done. Because sure, she says, oh, well, he should apologise, but that's not enough.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it doesn't make for the most interesting reading either when you have people like Carol Vorderman, and actually I do agree with Mayuran. Like, she, it was refreshing seeing her say, well, actually, I don't agree with this and I got it wrong. I didn't expect that, because actually we do often see either very high profile individuals, or I think more damagingly still, media just take a certain position, support a certain party, almost whatever they do. And it makes for boring and quite inauthentic reporting and reading of that reporting, I think, quite often. And I mean, I think the thing I'd say about this winter fuel tax, I mean, it's surprising. It seems very unnecessary. And surely there would have been much more creative ways to raise more money. I mean, Carol mentioned one, but you could also imagine, windfall taxes on tech companies or on the pharma companies, or, any number of things that surely would have been less politically sensitive with the voter base, maybe not with corporations, but with the voter base. And it should be the voter base that governments are acting on behalf, not corporations, and actually would have reaped in more money. So none of it really makes that much sense to me.
No. And the thing is, I think this has smashed the moral authority of this government in its early days, because there were new Labour MPs who were pictured literally holding signs up saying, we will not get rid of pensioner fuel allowances, and they voted for this policy. So there was a brilliant moment on radio that has been captured on social media, and this is when a pensioner directly challenged the new Labour MP for Loughborough, Jivan Sandher. It's really awkward listening, but put it this way, I'm team pensioner. Watch this.
I'm really proud of the achievements of the last Labour government. I'm really excited and proud of the achievements this Labour government will have.
Right. Okay, we've heard that. Now, did you vote yesterday?
Yes, I did, Margaret.
And what did you vote for?
I voted to means test the winter fuel allowance.
So you voted for it to stay. Is that what you're saying? Or you voted for it to leave?
So I voted to means test the winter fuel allowance.
But you want to look after the older people, of course, because you've just stated that. You want to look after people in this country.
Yes, Margaret.
But you're not doing that, are you? You are not doing that.
So, Margaret, I voted yesterday.
This is what makes me very cross, and it does make me very cross. Every one of you that's an MP can claim expenses. You can claim your heating. All right, we can all do the same. We can all cut our heating back. We can cut our electricity back. We can cut our heat, anything we want to back. You think about it. Electricity is going up 10%, and I think gas is going up between 13 and 14%. Not counting everything else, but after all, I must remember, you want to look after the people of this country. So why are we giving so much money away? Why are we spending millions every week for the hotels? Why are we sending money over to China? Why are we sending money over to India? We have all this, but you still want to look after the people of this country. Well, somehow I don't think that's true. And as for Keir Starmer, he lied on his manifesto. And so to me, that's deceitful. So he was deceitful there, so he's going to be deceitful in government.
Sorry, I think that's the moment of the week for me, Mayuran. Margaret was brilliant, wasn't she? Absolutely brilliant. Stating facts.
No, she was brilliant.
Spitting facts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, and I'm sorry to sound like a one-trick pony going on about migration, but she brings it up. And what Keir Starmer need to realise is every injustice against the British people, even if you can find a rational, legitimate argument, is going to be pitted against the money spent on illegal migration in particular. 5,000 beds being paid for just in case more migrants come. They're just empty at the moment, but they're being paid for, right? When pensioners see that, what do you think is going to happen? What emotions are going to be stirred? That sense of rage, that sense of injustice, is just going to escalate and escalate and escalate. And this is the reason why migration does need to be dealt with as quickly as possible and definitive as possible. At least the rhetoric needs to start changing, if nothing else. Because at the moment, as you said earlier in the program, we just can't talk about it. And when pensioners are going to be freezing to death, and the impact assessment from 2017, because we don't have one now, could be about 4,000 pensioners dying. I mean, imagine the headlines coming up in December, January. It's going to be horrendous.
Look, I don't think you're a one-trick pony at all. Immigration is now the number one issue for voters in this country. That is a fact. Its importance is only going to increase. And how disturbing that the entire political class, the elite class, and the mainstream media have just accepted Starmer's argument that we're not going to talk about it. Well, that position will not hold. It will not hold because, as you say, Mayuran, it impacts everything. Housing, education, the failure of the NHS, all of it, in the end, comes back to mass migration that we have allowed to, I believe, change the fabric of this country. But Molly, wasn't it great? Wasn't Margaret amazing?
She was brilliant. And actually, I think I'm a one-trick pony on a different trick, which is lying politicians. And she brought that up. And, I really do think
nothing angers me more. They lied for the whole campaign, Molly, and the media just let them get away with it. This is Labour I'm talking about.
The whole campaign. Why don't we have criminal penalties? I know people, when I say things like this, people look at me like I'm the dangerous radical. But what happened during the pandemic, and actually even before that, the lies in manifestos, the untruths, and some of them we know on the spot are lies. Politicians should not be able to get away with that. We shouldn't tolerate it. And whatever the consequence is, there should be a consequence of that. We have the Nolan principles, don't we? Like, what an absolute joke. Openness, transparency. I mean, they're almost there to state the opposite of the way politicians act. And it's just disastrous. So yeah, well done, Margaret, for calling it out.
Totally, because my view is that if Labour had won, let me say that again. My view is that if Labour had been honest about its true policy prescription before the general election, they still would have won. Don't get me wrong. People were completely betrayed by the Conservative government, which proved not to be Conservative. But I think their majority would have been seriously reduced if people knew their true intentions, and that would have led to actually much more democracy. Because one of the problems and one of the reasons that Starmer acts like such an authoritarian is because he just believes he's untouchable. He can literally take the whip away from so many MPs on the left of his party because he thinks he is invincible because of the ridiculous majority he has. But look, this was, of course, the week that Starmer decided to unleash 1,750 violent criminals on our street. Many more are coming in order to lock people up who posted inartfully on Facebook or X. So Andrew Lawrence, the comedian of the moment, has summed up the madness of the situation brilliantly. But first, it's the best time of year. Football is back. We're talking Premier League in the UK and in the US, NFL Sundays and college football Saturdays. With that comes the glorious grind of fantasy football lineups where your inner manager comes alive, setting perfect fantasy rosters, screaming at your TV. You know what it's like. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. Because let's be honest, no one wants to fumble their grooming routine. That's where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue ear and nose hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0, this is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. It'll help you feel clean, confident, and ready to dominate your fantasy league. So, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Groin and Body Hair Trimmer is the franchise player of your grooming roster. With precise trimming capabilities, it's reliable, efficient, and gets the job done without fumbling. Whether it's for date night, a weekend tailgate, or just everyday grooming, this is the tool you want on your squad. No one wants a surprise ear or nose hair making a guest appearance on game day. So the Weed Whacker 2.0 handles those details like a pro, keeping you neat and ready to go. No missed tackles in your grooming game. Also today comes with 2 free gifts. How can you resist this? The Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag. Premium gear to ensure you're always ready for action, whether at home or on the road. So join the over 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. I'm one of them. And get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. Use the coupon code Outspoken and you will get 20% off and free shipping as well. So let me repeat that, www.manscaped.com. When you go to checkout, you just type in Outspoken and you'll get 20% off your entire order as well as free shipping. This is an incredible deal. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
Hello, I'm Sergeant Constable Detective Officer Peter Pisspot from Twat Valley Police. Assalamu alaikum. Now, many of you will be aware of government plans to release thousands of criminals from prison early in the coming weeks. Indeed, this has already begun. Up and down the country this week, there were heartwarming scenes of violent thugs and thieving toe rags celebrating jubilantly outside prison gates, hardly able to believe their luck. Obviously, some of you will have concerns about this process. Some of you will fear for your personal safety, and you're absolutely right to do so. As we move into the autumn, we're likely to see a massive crime spree all across the UK, with a considerably heightened risk of you getting either battered or robbed as you go about your everyday lives. Inevitably, there will be a period of significant disorder. I'd like to reassure people that police forces around the country are on top of the situation. Unfortunately, I can't, as the truth is we're underfunded, under-resourced and absolutely overrun with poorly trained diversity hires who aren't fit for the job. I myself will be spending the next few months either hiding under my desk or in a cupboard or shuffling papers, and if required to take a more hands-on role in dealing with the inevitable chaos of several thousand criminals on the streets, I will be going on long-term sick leave. What I would say is keep your wits about you, perhaps take some self-defence classes, hide all your valuables, don't get your phone out in public, and remember, you're very much on your own in all of this. If you do find yourself a victim of crime, please do report it to your nearest police station and they'll do their very best to pretend to care. Stay safe out there if you can. Good luck. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Kumbaya.
Molly, most of what he says is completely true.
Well, I mean, you've got to laugh, haven't you? But like it hides
you'd
a serious point, which is that
Yeah.
actually there, as we talked about at the beginning, like this country is not in a good place. And,
No.
maybe we do need a dose of humor to get through it.
No, we do, but we're not safe, are we, Mayuran? And actually, fundamentally, I think that's the real worry, that people in our big cities no longer feel safe, no longer feel like the police are there to look after us, and that's a really sad place to be in as a society.
It is. We're supposed to be a first world country. The key point that I think he made in that sketch is he said you're on your own, and I think that resonates with the British people. I think fair play to the hard-working police officers, but nonetheless, when I had a burglary about a month or so ago, I phoned the police 48 hours. I think it took them more than 48 hours to even show up, and I knew, and they knew, they would never find the perpetrators, and that's how it feels. I'm on my own. I have to just fend for myself and lock up my belongings as best as I can because I can't actually rely on the police. That's how it feels. And I think many of the British people feel the same.
Indeed. The breakdown of society, I think, is when you realise you can call 999, the ambulance ain't coming. And obviously that's both practical and metaphorical. At the moment, we are on our own, and that's why I think a political revolution needs to happen. But, wow, what a deep chat for a Friday evening. Mayuran, Sentilnathan and Molly Kingsley, my brilliant superstar panel. Thank you both so much. Please do come back very soon. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.